this Village of Greenhills Council meeting to order for November 23rd, 2021. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Halter? Here. Ms. Hermes is out. Mr. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Metz?
Here.
Mrs. Monaghan?
Here.
And Ms. Walter is also excused.
Right.
And Mayor Moore.
Here. And since Maria is not with us, does anybody want to do a prayer?
I can do it. Dear Heavenly Father, we just ask that you could help us serve the community well, that you would bless and protect our community and allow us to grow in our relationship with you, each other, and our neighbor. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have minutes of the council retreat for October 23rd, 2021, and the meeting of council meeting of October 26, 2021. Anybody have any corrections? Okay, hearing none, the minutes stand approved. All right. We have no public presentations, no public hearing tonight. Reports of municipal officials. Manager Yvonne Kovac.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to start out talking about our new agenda, because this is the first night we're using our new full agenda, and to point out to the public any changes, kind of strange-looking things you may see. What we've done, what council has done in their recent update to the rules of council is insert some items that we've been doing, like the public presentations after approval of minutes. We've added the section for public hearings where that would always be held if we had any, followed by the reports of officials, reports of committees, then an opportunity for the citizens to comment on legislation that's on our agenda tonight. Then we have, after municipal calendar, a section for residents to talk again about items not on the agenda, but that they have another opportunity to address council with their concerns. An item for executive session, should we have one, that would typically be where it would fall. I didn't put none after that because something could come up even during the course of the meeting that we had to have an executive session, but that's where it would typically fall. And then, of course, adjournment. So we'll follow our new agenda. The next thing I wanted to talk about on your agenda tonight is the second reading of ordinance 2021-04 LNR. This is the one regarding the repealing of an ordinance that was the dedication of DeWitt Court many, many years ago. I want to give you some information on that the residents, some information on it. Council's reviewed this item, but this issue, first, and please jump in, Mr. Forbes, if I leave anything out or portray it inaccurately. This issue kind of came to our attention when, as we're moving forward towards the new construction. It was noticed that the Hamilton County Court records, auditor's records, were not consistent with our records in the dedication of actually DeWitt and Chalmers Court as a street when they took it from either Fianco or the federal government, I'm not sure, back in 1980. So the court, since 1938, it has been DeWitt Court. It will remain DeWitt Court. The 1980 dedication to a street did not change that at all. So just wanted to let you know there's no change there. Yeah, we'll be continuing to call it a court. This is not a zoning issue at all. Zoning's irrelevant to a street or a court. So no zoning reviews are required. I understand an issue also came up about community development block grant money. That would apply to any right-of-way. We use CDBG money on sidewalks, on streets, on parks, purchasing equipment, so that too is not an issue. So I hope that helps a little bit. When we're closer to the time, if you have any questions, let me know. And then the other thing I did want to mention is that leaf collection is continuing. It seems like that last rain we had about a week ago brought down a lot of them that were just hanging in there. So there's a lot to be collected out there, but right now it's scheduled to go through December 9th. So that's what I have right now. Thank you.
Comments or questions of the manager? All right. Law Director Jeff Forbes.
Thank you, Mayor. No report tonight.
Clerk of Council Tanya Kohler.
No report.
Okay. Chief of Police Neil Furterman.
Thank you, Mayor. We finished up some of our warmer weather with some activities outside. Probably one of the more solemn ones was the Veterans Day observance. Many of us were there along with our veterans who were in formation and had a very good presentation. And we participated as observers, and we thank them for all that they have done for us over the years. On a little bit more fun note, we enjoyed Halloween not once, not twice, but 3 times with our residents. We had a trunk or treat occasion over at the Greenhills Baptist Church, which was the first time they had tried that. It was very successful, and our officers participated, handed out treats, and enjoyed some of the young trick-or-treaters that came. We also participated at what used to be Primary North, which is now the Early Childhood Central Campus, dedicated primarily to preschoolers, and we were over there for another trunk and treat occasion, and that was literacy themed, and our officers were over there handing out treats as well. And then, of course, in conjunction with our fire department, we were on the streets of the village on trick-or-treat night itself, handing out goodies. So we had a good time with all of the kids, and we always look forward to that. Another occasion that we're looking forward to in the future would be in conjunction with Light Up on Friday, December 3rd. Courtesy of arrangements made by Councilmember Metz, we will be passing out cookies. So this summer we had cooking with the cops, and this winter we're going to have cookies with the cops. So we'll have some delicious cookies from Buskin's Bakery, and we'll have officers stationed there to hand them out. If that isn't enough to entice you, we mentioned that there'll be hot chocolate there as well at the event, and what goes better with hot chocolate than cookies? So, you know, it's kind of you shouldn't miss it. Internally, we've been catching up on a lot of training. We had our annual departmental meeting on November the 11th. We covered a lot of things that had to do with revisions to our policies, case law updates. We also incorporated in some training on wellness. I think it's been a tough year and a half or tough 2 years for just about everybody, even more so in law enforcement profession. So we actually had a clinical psychologist that came and talked to our officers about wellness, and we've updated our policies to make a lot of resources available for them if that need ever arrives. And then we followed up with the moving around stuff, and we did defensive tactics. All sworn officers were required to go through that. We did that half of the department that day, and then half of the department last week. So all officers went through and learned defensive tactics skills, and that's designed to not only keep our officers safe, but keep those that we arrest safe, so that they're safely taken into custody. We through our finance director and particularly our municipal manager, we obtained tasers for all of our officers. We now have a complement of tasers for each officer, and they're individually assigned. My experience has been, as with portable radios, they will last almost forever until they're obsolete. But they replaced 4 aging tasers that we had that were failing repeatedly because of battery issues. So we're happy to have that, and even with de-escalation techniques, the tasers are a good tool for us to have that allows us when we encounter conflict. We participated in training not officers, but actually students, and not really training, but just interacting with them and reading to them. Officer Holbrook and I both went to Winton Woods South Campus, and we read to a very spirited group of second graders who had more questions than we had answers, and they have invited us back for their holiday party, so we get to go back and finish answering all the many questions that second graders have. We did get a thank you from Springdale Police. We received this from Keenan Rorden, who is their community officer. He said yesterday, and this was on November 4th, I had a woman reach out to me who's a member of a senior citizens group that I coordinate. She was frantic because she'd been able to contact her friend for 6 days, which is rare. Her friend is an 88-year-old resident of Greenhills, contacted your department to see if someone could run by her home. The officer, or the clerk who answered, which was our police clerk, Vonda Sequoia, was wonderful and dispatched Officer Carl Holbrook to check it out. Officer Holbrook did not receive an answer at the door, but took it upon himself to go to the extra effort and located a family member. It turned out that your resident had been transferred to a hospital and was doing fine. Officer Holbrook contacted Clerk Sequoia, who immediately called me back and gave me the good news. I would like to commend and thank them both for making the extra effort to locate her and for being so polite and professional. This is the type of service we have grown accustomed to from Greenhills. If I can ever be any assistance, don't hesitate to ask. So always happy to hear those kind of responses. We would remind our listeners that might be watching of the changes in weather and what occurs to drivers. We've officially turned to autumn now, brings its own set of hazards. Don't make the mistake of thinking that just because the snow's not here yet, it's an easy time for driving. There's going to be an increase, as we've seen recently, in rain. Roads are slippery, particularly with leaves falling. And deer, finally, are most active, and particularly in our neck of the woods. At the beginning of deer breeding season, they can often be seen near the edge of the road. Keep a sharp eye out for deer crossings, as they will be prevalent right now. In terms of criminal and traffic statistics, we made 23 criminal arrests the last month. We made charges for improperly handling firearms in a motor vehicle, obstructing official business, possession of drugs, drug paraphernalia, failure to appear, open liquor container, and animals running at large. We responded to 187 incidents, and that includes 22 squad runs, 13 animal complaints, 8 juvenile complaints, 8 parking complaints, 6 disabled vehicles, 6 intrusion alarms, 5 thefts, 5 neighborhood trouble calls, 5 noise complaints, and 5 domestic trouble runs. We provided mutual aids to our surrounding departments in 16 instances. We issued 76 traffic citations, 67 warnings, and investigated 3 traffic crashes. And in conclusion, we wish all who might be watching and all of those here a happy and prosperous Thanksgiving, and we are thankful for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any comments or questions? Chief's doing a great job, and the department is, as usual. Okay. I have the court receipts for the month of October. State of Ohio will be getting $2,084. Hamilton County, $80, and $8,133 to the Village of Greenhills. And that's all I have. Okay, and since Maria Walther is not with us this evening, excused absence, do we have anybody that has anything to report on laws and rules? And of course, your backup is Melanie Brokaw, who's not well either. So I assume we have nothing. Recreation Cable TV, Natasha Metz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, the big topic is Light Up Greenhills, which is on Friday, December 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. Like Chief mentioned, we're going to have the cops there with some cookies from Buskin. We're going to have a craft table to allow the kids to make their own ornament. We've still got the carriage rides. And I know last time I mentioned that we were trying to get the 2 smaller carriages to make it more intimate ride, but unfortunately, that wasn't available at the company, so we're going to go back to still using the big, long wagon, which will help in the end because you can get more people going. People enjoy that a lot better instead of having to wait for the individual ones, so we'll be able to let people have more rides. We will still have Santa and the letters to Santa there. There's going to be a tree the kids can decorate. There's the ice sculptures, the big bonfire, and of course the big part of it is we're going to light up the commons at 6 p.m. So even if you can't show up, if you want to set your schedule on your lights, your timer to go off at 6 o'clock so that we can have all of Greenhills light up together, that would be great. So looking forward to that. And then as far as Waycross goes, Santa is coming. 2019 was the 20th anniversary of Talking with Santa, and he is going to be back. It's December 15th at 7 p.m. It will be live, and children 12 and under can call in or email their questions to Santa. In addition, Waycross is looking for volunteers for the basketball season, and while I'm sure it was quite an estimate, I was told they need about 272,000 camera operators. She was joking. It was that's your cue to laugh. Yeah, they need a lot of volunteers for basketball season. So if anybody's available to help run, you will be trained to run the camera and everything to help them out. But they do need a lot of volunteers. And then finally, they are receiving a lot of questions about their coverage of Winton Woods football. And unfortunately, Ohio State Athletic Association is not allowing them to cover the game going forward. So unfortunately, there won't be any more game broadcasts of the football games. So she just wanted me to lay that out and clarify, because they're still getting questions about it. So unfortunately, there will not be any more coverage of the Winton Woods football games through Waycross. And that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. All right. Service and Streets, Jennifer Osmonoglu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to piggyback on the leaf, I can't even talk.
Collection.
I just wanted to let everyone know, if you have any questions about what you're supposed to do, get on the Greenhills website and look. There's a nice calendar that's laid out for you. December 9th is the deadline. Try not to rake your leaves into the street or the storm sewers. And don't mix things in with your leaves, so it's not a whole everything in your yard type of situation, just the leaves. And then, they'll come by and get them. They go by every week, so that there will not be leaves sitting out more than a week. So, and, I guess if there's like some kind of rain or something, it might change things. But December 9th, have them all out by then. So thanks.
And hopefully my sycamore tree will drop all of its leaves by then.
It won't be December 10th.
Yes, the oaks are usually about the last to fall, but for some reason this year, my sycamore has got more leaves than the oaks that are next to it. All right, Community Development, Jeff Halder.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We met on Wednesday, November 17th. Some of the things that we talked about for community development, we got an update from Yvonne on the local historic district and hopefully keep that moving forward. And it looks like things are moving forward. And also an update on property maintenance and code enforcement. That's been an ongoing thing that we're, following through with. Bob is doing his work there, and we just want to stay on top of that since there's been a number of violations and things to keep up with. And the other thing too was an update. We had, it's been a while, but the original plan was to put a base around the sign the entryway sign as you're coming south on Winton Road, and looks like that's going to be happening, and should make it a little more pronounced. So that's a good thing. We did a recap on the Beautification Awards. We dove in, just thought it was a good idea, dove in, and we're firming things up. Some of the things that came in were structural, where people have put on new roofs and things like that, which is pretty common for Greenhills. So we looked at, try to set some guidelines, and we thought it went really well this year. In some cases, I've gotten some questions like, well, why was there only one? In some cases, we only had one nominee on one side of Winton Road. So you have to nominate yourself or nominate somebody that's doing a good job. But thank you for everybody that participated. They seem to be a very good thing. And then that, I think, that would conclude what I have for community development. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and no safety report. Finance and Audit, Jack Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At your place tonight is the recap from the financial reports that our finance director had prepared for the month of October. This is a recap for your review. If you would, just looking at it, the revenues for the month of October in year-to-date income tax and year-to-date real estate tax shows that the overall general fund revenues are right on target where they should be for this time of the year. The fund balance as of October 2021 was $1,854,614.18, which is a healthy $230,000 increase over the prior year. On the expense side, we continue to hold down the expenses, at least for the moment. I'm sure that we're all looking at possible expense increases as we go along due to something called inflation that's now affecting everyone's budget. Overall, the general fund expenditures expended versus appropriation as of the end of October was 54.8% of the appropriated amount. There were no transfers from the general fund during the month. Tonight, we'll be voting upon a resolution that makes some supplemental appropriations for year-end adjustments to maintain appropriate fund balances in the four noted fund categories that total all four $45,000. This is just typical at this time of the year that the finance director and manager are recommending. I also put the debt amortization chart that was given to us a while back, and you'll look that 2022 is going to be a banner year. That means a big chunk will be paid off at the end of 2022. So it's something to look forward to at that point. Deb, do you have anything to add?
No, I certainly do not.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay, now's the opportunity for residents and non-residents to make comments solely regarding legislation that's on the current agenda. Non-residents must obtain prior permission. This is time for citizens to comment on legislation listed on the agenda for this session of council. When recognized, please come forward to the podium, give your name and address, state your comments. Comments will be limited to 4 minutes.
Am I recognized? Am I recognized? You said you must be recognized.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Patty Engel, and I live at 32 Chalmers Lane. I've got 222 votes to take a council seat, and one of these days that's probably going to happen. But my concern is that there was a bogus meeting that was supposed to be reviewing this ordinance that was kind of squeezed in with a work session 2 weeks ago, and I was denied an opportunity to comment on it, even though it was a public hearing. So I'm going to present my concerns right now. Number one, I don't know who writes your ordinances or your whatever this is here, if the clerk writes it, if Yvonne writes it, or Jeff, but this looks like a 10-year-old wrote it. Village of Greenhills previously acquired title, okay? Why don't you have a date there? In November of 1980, Council adopted Ordinance 8048C accepting the dedication of DeWitt Court as a public street. You mean to tell me it wasn't a public street in 1938 with the original plan when it was built? Then we've got this said ordinance was never submitted to Hamilton County identifying DeWitt Court as a public street. Well, I don't know why it would have need to. Nor has DeWitt Court ever been used as a public street, which is false. Now we've got declared that DeWitt Court is not a public street, and now Yvonne is saying Chalmers Court is not a public street. Then we get down to section 1, the ordinance, where the copy of this, why isn't there a copy of the ordinance that you're supposedly overturning? Again, if you're going to take an action, you should have attached to this what it is you intend to change. It is a public street. What's the legal definition of a street according to Google? Is refers to a road or way maintained by the local authority and used by the public. Well, I would suggest that it has been used by the public and we have been maintaining it. It means more than the surface. It means the whole surface, so much as the depth or that can be used and not unfairly for ordinary purposes of a street. A public road with buildings on both sides is considered a street. DeWitt Court had buildings on all 3 sides. What are some of this? Why are some streets called courts? A court is a cul-de-sac of 8 lots or less that is not interrupted by a thorough roadway, but yet it still is a street, even though your little ordinance says it's not a street. Then I looked up the addresses that Ms. Hermes lived at a rent reduction, which was a nepotism conflict of interest between Mr. Moore and Ms. Hermes way back when he gave her a $200 plus discount, and that came just on the field prior to giving her another sweet deal at the taxpayer's expense. Okay, a court is a short street that ends as a cul-de-sac. So DeWitt Court is a short street. What did Ms. Brokaw use for an address when she lived on DeWitt Court? Did she just say, I live right off of DeWitt Street? No,
Does this
she
have
had an
anything to do with the
address.
legislation?
What
Mrs.
address
Ann
did
Warren?
he use for his free reduced rent from the village when Dave Adams lived there? We're talking about DeWitt Court.
No, you
Was
were
DeWitt
talking-
Court a street on the resident directory? Yes, it was. Did you take community block grant development funds, naming it as a street? Did you get an NHL recommendation? All of these things
4 minutes
have
is
to
up.
say, it
Thank
is
you.
a street.
Thank you.
This is bogus.
Done,
It looks
done,
like
Take your
it should
seat,
be
please.
Done.
Thank you.
done.
Anybody else?
I have a question. I have public comments, but it's not regarding legislation. Will I be allowed to?
At the end.
Yeah, there's another section at the end for that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right, moving on, unfinished business, ordinance number 2021-04-LNR, second reading, repealing ordinance 80-48C regarding the dedication of DeWitt Court. And who wants to read this since Maria is not here?
I'll be happy to do it.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Ordinance number 2021-04-LNR, repealing ordinance 80-48-C regarding the dedication of DeWitt Court. Whereas the Village of Greenhills previously acquired title to property known as DeWitt Court, and whereas in November 1980, Council adopted ordinance 80-48-C, accepting the dedication of DeWitt Court as a public street, and whereas said ordinance was never submitted to Hamilton County identifying DeWitt Court as a public street, nor has DeWitt Court ever been used as a public street. And whereas these conflicting records have caused confusion as to the status of DeWitt Court, and whereas council now desires to clarify the status of DeWitt Court, removing any confusion, and declare that DeWitt Court is not a public street. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the Village of Greenhills, Ohio, members elected thereto concurring, Section 1, that ordinance 80-48-C is hereby repealed in its entirety and shall have no further force or effect. Section 2, that DeWitt Court is not a public street, but is a parcel of property owned by the Village of Greenhills, consistent with the current records of Hamilton County. Section 3, that this ordinance shall be effective 30 days after the date of its passage by council. Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass this resolution,
Second.
or ordinance, sorry.
Ordinance.
Sorry, ordinance.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to pass the this ordinance. Any comments? Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Ms. Metz?
Aye.
Mrs. Montague? Aye. And Mr. Halter?
Aye.
Okay. Ordinance number 2021-04-LNR passes. Next item, new business, Resolution 2021-24-F, resolution making supplemental appropriations and transfers. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2021-24F, resolution making supplemental appropriations and transfers. Whereas the 2021 annual appropriations that were adopted on December 8th, 2020 are to be amended, and whereas the appropriations must not exceed total available resources of the village per Ohio Revised Code Section 5705.36A5. Therefore, an amended certificate of estimated resources has been requested from the County Budget Commission. Now therefore it be resolved by the Council of Village Greenhills, Ohio, Section 1, since certain actions are needed in the monies appropriated so to permit the Village of Greenhills to meet its fiscal obligations for the year 2021, the following items of expenditure are to supplement the appropriations for expenditure for the year 2021. Fund description: General Fund Administration account number 1000.7110. Original appropriation was $291,000. Change $15,000 for a new total of $306,000. General Fund description: General Fund Lands and Buildings, account number 1000.730. Original appropriation $536,000. Change an additional $10,000 for a new total of $546,000. Fund description: General Fund Law Director, 1000.750. Original appropriation $35,000. Change an additional $10,000 for a new total of $45,000. Police Fund, Fund number 2901. Original appropriation $993,360. Change an additional $10,000. New total is $1,003,360. Section 2, that the following transfers of funds are to be made from previously appropriated monies. None. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be in full force from and after the earliest date allowed by law. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, clerk call the roll.
Ms. Metz?
Aye.
Mr. Halter?
Aye.
Mrs. Montague?
Aye.
And Mr. Lee?
Aye.
Okay, resolution number 2021-24-F passes. Okay, council comments. How do we want to do this? Do you want to just go around and see if anybody has comments?
Sure.
Do you have any comments? Any
No.
comments?
This time?
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. That's all.
All right. And municipal calendar?
Light up Greenhills.
Okay.
December 3rd, 6 to 8.
Anything else? Do we have any meetings scheduled before the end of the year? I don't think so.
Well,
When are we, we're changing?
What is the date? We
We didn't pick a
We
date.
didn't pick one yet, did we?
So we'll be having a
Pretty
signature.
soon, maybe next week.
Okay.
We do need to do that. Finance Committee.
You in town next week?
Yes.
Okay.
We're canceling. Okay, and the next regular meeting, we won't have a work session in December. The next regular meeting will be on December the 14th. And the meeting that would have been scheduled for the 28th of December will be canceled. So we'll have one meeting in December on the 14th.
Waycross Talk with Santa, December 15th, 7 p.m.
All right. Okay, now, The next item, opportunity for residents and non-residents to appear before council. Non-residents must obtain prior permission, and I don't see any non-residents out there. This is time for citizens to comment on matters before council. When recognized, please come forward to the podium, give your name and address, and state your comments or questions. If you have questions, the questions will be recorded and referred to the manager's office for response. This will allow time for thorough and thoughtful consideration to be given to each question. Council meetings are recorded for ease of transcription. Comments are limited to 4 minutes. Speakers may not yield any or all of their time to other people. And you'll notice we're now giving, instead of 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and which is a change. When I became mayor, I changed it from 2 minutes to 3 minutes. So now we're listening to more people. And I will make one other little comment. I was just reminded that Waycross will be celebrating next year 40 years of televising and being in operation. And Greenhills was the first council meeting in Hamilton County to be televised by any of the, so we beat Cincinnati, we beat a lot of people. And we've been doing this for, it'll be almost 40 years pretty soon.
So big thank you to Waycross.
Right, yes. And Waycross is mainly volunteers, a few employed people, but the volunteers have made it a good success. All right, anybody?
I'm Monique Mason-Halter, 154 Junefield. I'm here tonight for a few reasons. I'm asking again that council members pass a small cell ordinance that could better prevent 4G and 5G infrastructure from being installed near Greenhills homes and schools. Ordinances have been passed in Amberley Village, Cincinnati, Marymount, and Mason. Wireless infrastructure installed near homes reduces property value. There are safety risks to consider as well. In August, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit ruled that the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, failed to respond to, quote, record evidence that exposure to RF radiation at levels below the Commission's current limits may cause negative health effects unrelated to cancer, unquote. The court also ruled that the FCC ignored organizations, scientists, and medical doctors who asked them to update limits and also failed to address these issues. Impacts of long-term wireless exposure, impacts to children, impacts to wildlife and the environment, impacts to the developing brain and reproduction. One of the village mayoral candidates proposed public Wi-Fi while he was campaigning. I'm asking that the council not invest in public Wi-Fi without considering risks first. When I spoke before council in March, I spoke about the OTARD rule. OTARD stands for over-the-air reception devices. The FCC amended a version of this rule which allows private property owners to place fixed point-to-point antennas supporting wireless service on their property and extend wireless data and voice services, including 5G, to users on neighboring properties to facilitate fast deployment of mesh Wi-Fi networks, 5G, and the ground infrastructure for SpaceX satellites. It allows antennas on homes while preempting all state and local zoning authority. No permit is required. Again, there are safety risks. Utility trade groups, public safety officials, utility companies, and others have filed lawsuits against the FCC because, quote, 5G would create an unreasonably high potential for radio frequency interference that could disrupt communication systems that underpin the safety and reliability of the grid, end quote. 5G deployment in the C-band has also been delayed because the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, believes that 5G frequencies could interfere with aviation equipment. This has been reported by the Wall Street Journal and other media outlets. The OTARD rule also preempts federal and state civil rights laws that protect the disabled and the rights for accommodations. People have no right to object to these devices under the OTARD rule. As far as I know, the OTARD rule is in effect. I'm asking that all Greenhills businesses and property owners consider that others here may not want antennas installed near their homes or businesses. Lastly, A few weeks ago, there was media coverage of a local electric vehicle fire that was difficult to put out. The media has also reported that firefighters need special training for EV fires, and I hope that the village is providing that for ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, and the fire department is trained in electrical fires with vehicles, EVs.
Okay, awesome.
My name is Pat Antoine. I'm a former candidate for the Village of Greenhills Council, and my motto was, "Your voice on council." 222 people saw fit to give me that right, so here I am. I'm concerned because in the Greenhills Journal, it says that there is a council meeting on the fourth Tuesday of every month. It doesn't mention anything about work sessions. And then when you squeeze in your extra little work sessions and do your readings and whatever, that's supposed to be a public hearing, but how in the world was anybody supposed to know about it if they were relying on the Greenhills Journal, because you don't put it out there? A lot of other communities that Waycross Services actually film and video their work session as well as the council meeting, and I would suggest that the Greenhills Council start making themselves a little bit more transparent so that we could have some idea what kind of discussions, what kind of committee things are going on, because right now you're leaving everybody in the dark. The habit that you have of having a gazillion executive sessions is kind of ridiculous, because it doesn't really even call for in the Sunshine Law, which I guess you guys probably caught up and did take some training along the way. But we've got a situation where the city of Cincinnati pretty much banned executive sessions, and there was just recently an article in the newspaper that they had their first executive session in 3 years. I would like to make kind of just a suggestion that the village has placed all the photographs and awards or whatever that are supposed to be for the citizens to be aware of behind their little their border here that no one's allowed to go across. So if anyone wanted to read anything that's supposed to be a public thing, it should be moved over to the public area. If you're saying that DeWitt Court is not a street, and you claim that Chalmers Court is in the same boat, is that Chalmers Court is not a street now and you're not going to provide services? There are 7 courts and 2 places that are all streets in the village of Greenhills. Are you going to start pulling the designations for them? What was the real reason that you needed to do that? There seems to be reluctance to actually discuss why you do any of the things that you do. It is disgusting, it is disappointing, and to think that you guys actually consider that you're doing your job is a farce. Work sessions need to be televised. My platform called for Ohio performance audit as soon as possible, and I think it's direly overdue. Mandatory competitive bids. How about Rumpke, and how about your aggregation? When was the last time we heard anything about competitive bids on these things that we're paying for? How about fair real estate assessments?
Single time.
We've got,
Okay.
we've
Let
got
her
the
finish.
village.
Her time's about up.
It might be about up, but it's not up. So anyhow, how can you spend money on attorneys to defend the property value of the mayor and some of the other council people? What gave you the right to spend tax money to cover your own behinds? That is ethically wrong. It is a violation, it's an abuse of power, and it's a misuse of public funds. We should have keen oversight on the money that's being spent. You guys don't even pay any attention to anything.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Anwar.
And thank you for actually having something. It would be nice if you had an actual countdown timer.
Well, maybe somebody will contribute that.
I think it would be a good thing for you to do.
Sit down.
Got it.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody else to comment? I will make,
I have,
okay.
I'll contribute a clock. It'll make it easier, so I think it's a good suggestion.
That's what they use at Toastmasters, and it's very easy to comply.
Okay, thank you.
And then
We had
have
one
to be
for
We already said
Okay.
about 3 sessions in a row.
I will make a comment when you made a comment about the citizens and council members. Well, the citizens elected 3 new council members. They elected these 3 up here. They did not elect you. So just to keep that in mind.
And I might,
122 people did vote.
Which is
Which-
less
which-
people than
which
you
was-
got the last 2 times you ran.
which was 10% of the
Okay.
vote.
All right.
90% of the vote went to the 3 candidates. You lost by 3-1. That is not a mandate.
How petty are you?
Okay.
Can I respond to the first vote?
I want
All right.
to know how petty you are.
Meeting adjourned.